Herkese merhaba, Nereye Gidiyoruz'a hoş geldiniz. Ben Samet Karagöz, Nagihan Haliloğlu ile birlikte bu bölümde Başkent Kültür Yolu Festivali kapsamında Ankara'da bulunan Yusuf Cat Stevens'ı konuk ediyoruz. Cumhurbaşkanlığı Senfoni Orkestrası binasındayız. Hello Yusuf.
Hello.
Welcome.
Welcome. Good to have you with us on this show. I would like to ask, you took a break from music and the stage for a very long time, and then you decided to come back to music and stage. May I learn what's your motives on these two different movements?
Well, I embraced Islam in 1977, and in the 80s I was traveling to many countries, including Turkey and Malaysia and Middle East. Really, I had some doubts about music and the place of music in my life, and there were, some critics about music itself within Islam, and some questions. So therefore, I really didn't really need it when I discovered this beautiful path of Islam, which is beauty and peace within myself. I didn't have any kind of gaps that I needed to fill. It was now, it was being fulfilled by being a Muslim. And so therefore, it didn't really bother me. And so I gave up the guitar. People went, how can you do that? But for me, I had found something much better. However, when I go back into my past, I realize how, as a child, music is so powerful and so important. And children naturally, veer towards rhythm, and harmony. So some of the first things I started to do, one was to write a song for my daughter, my first daughter, A is for Allah. And gradually I started writing these songs for children. And that, I suppose, got me getting back into the style of writing again. And then I visited Turkey, actually, and it had an immense effect on me because there's my sort of Greek Cypriot background, but the culture of, Greece and Turkey is so close. It started to awaken within me something very special. The ilahiler, kind of style of music. And then I started to move more towards that direction. Things happened after a while. It evolved, like life is evolving. And then things happen. And when I saw so many distortions of the message of the beauty of Islam in the press, continuously, barbarically, affecting people's view of Islam, I said it's time to bring back as much as we can of the harmony that we know exists in Islam to the public. And so I started writing, and gradually, with release of a greatest hits, they brought me in again a little bit, and that's where I started to write more songs. And now I've got another, I think, maybe over 100 songs which I've written since I've become a Muslim.
That's great. I actually want to pick up on two things you've said. Curious about your musical influences and the kind of music you grew up with, whether there was Cypriot music in your house and how you connect to that heritage.
Well, yes, but the dominant music, at the time when I grew up was the 50s, like musicals. And I was living in the West End, which is like Broadway. And so you have all this music, and you have the, coffee bars and the jukeboxes, and you had that kind of thing. But then came the Beatles. And the Beatles, it wasn't just a matter of listening to music. This was life-changing. This was going to change the world. That's what we believe, All you need is love. Yes, very important. And it was a revolution. And for me, that was the point where I got a guitar, and I started to, I had a lot of, I was already an artist, but now I just transformed my art from painting towards music. And my words, I would think, are probably the most important part of my music, because I couldn't sing a song that didn't mean anything. It doesn't, mind you, I did sing a song once called I Love My Dog More Than I Love You, but that's history. That's history. And we make these mistakes sometimes down there.
But I mean, was there any Greek music as you were growing up in the house?
Well, we used to go to weddings, Greek weddings. And my brother, George, who, grew up in Alexandria. Actually, he was born in Alexandria when my father moved to Egypt. He, played bouzouki and he played violin. So I used to see my brother playing. And so maybe there was that kind of DNA that was already in the family. And Dad used to love singing. He loved singing Arabic songs, actually. He used to have a very good kind of twirly voice.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
I would like to ask, you are on the first time on the stage in Turkey. Why it took too long for you? Because you visited Turkey, Istanbul many times, but you were never on stage. You never sang a song here in Turkey.
Well, my relationship with Turkey was different from that, let's say, with America or Europe, because I had to rebuild my relationship with my fans and with my, those who followed my music and my words, because the media had done a job of creating a wall, and it was a big wall. And in order to, overcome that, I had to be present, and that's why I started writing and recording and releasing albums. And you can see the pattern gradually. I mean, if you look on Facebook today, you'll see that there's an immense love and connection. I didn't have to do that with Turkey because I was already here, in the hearts of people, and the people were in my heart. And so therefore there was less of a job to do. But it's an enjoyable thing. And I thought it's time to do a concert in Turkey. And with the festival happening, it was a perfect timing.
Do you have any collaborations with Turkish musicians? Do you follow the Turkish music scene at all?
I don't follow any music scene at all. I write music and I hardly listen to anybody else.
Oh, seriously? Okay.
Really. I do listen to occasionally things, but I tried always not to be too influenced by the time or the space or, or the trends. And, so that's the way I write music.
I actually wanted to ask something that is also connected, because, of course, the music industry has seen so many changes and sort of it's changed how, people consume music. And I wonder what you think about that, from the LPs to digital platforms today. How do you see that change?
Well, it's much less precious, much less valuable, because now there's an ocean of music which is streaming in all directions and different genres. It's hard, even for me, when you say, do I know the music scene?
Yeah.
I'll listen to like 10 seconds and I'll go, I'll switch to something else. And it's so easy because that's how it's created. And so the technology has really taken away some of the enamor of the music itself. And it doesn't mean what it meant in my generation. My generation, it was life-changing. Now it's a kind of a background thing. There are still good songs being written, for sure. There's always talent and there's always room for somebody to say something. But a lot of it is kind of geared towards a much more physical, sexual expression. And I just don't see that as being very valuable to me anymore.
Do you think the art can bring people together from different religions, different countries, or how the art in general affect not only the music, but the art, I mean?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, there is a level of, what can you say, of unity which is created through music. You can look at a concert and you can see it described exactly as it is. You see people coming together to listen, to unite behind some kind of musician or style of music, and they are joined in some way with that moment, with that heartbeat. So that is, it's a congregational experience. Now, of course, when we have earphones and so many things to divert us from being together, music has changed in that way where it's not so much of a connection anymore. And you don't have to lift this record and put it on and be careful about, putting the thing and look after the record and clean it. None of that exists anymore. So there's a different kind of culture which has evolved. That's why live music, I think, is so valuable. because it does bring us back to the original kind of purpose of music, which is getting together, you know.
And again, in this context, maybe, do you have any recommendations for sort of future or young musicians? Should they shut things off, as you were just saying, or how should they go about this?
I think for young musicians, you know, you've got to find your purpose. And, you know, again, I would say that fame is and success is a very unstable thing. If you go for that, it won't last long. But if you go with sincerity, with what you believe and who you are, and perhaps with whatever struggles you're going through, that may come out as something which people will consider valuable. But you've got to think it's valuable first, before anybody else can.
You mentioned fame, and I would like to ask, what is the concept of fame for you as Yusuf Cat Stevens?
Well, fame for me is like when somebody is able to contribute something of value to, you know, whether it's art or whether it's science, or in any field. But the greatest contribution, I think, of humanity has come from prophets. And it's not music or, you know, it's not art, it's character and faith and wisdom. And so for me, the best, most famous people are the prophets, you know, and they're the ones in my life who matter most.
Before we finished, because we are running out of time, I just want to ask you, you started an initiative called Peace Train under your Yusuf Islam Foundation. What's the activities of this initiative? Can you tell us briefly?
It's very simple, you know, because, I mean, you can imagine that it's impossible to have peace, to experience peace, if you're starving, you're hungry, got no shelter, refugees. So first place to start is to start feeding people. And it's based on the saying of the Prophet, peace be upon him, feed people and spread peace. That's basically the motto. And, you know, we've been doing that work, and wherever we can. We're not a large organization, but I use, you know, whatever I can, my facilities and my resources, at least to continue in a year. At least I want to feed 1 million people. That's my objective. And alhamdulillah, so far we're doing it.
Yusuf, thank you for joining us on Times of Turkey.
Thank you so much.
Bir sonraki programda tekrar görüşünceye dek hoşça kalın.